if you have a question, and I have had some questions in advance actually, but if you have a question, rather than actually putting the question in the chat box, can you just type question in capitals? We will then come to you in turn in terms of how those things have been put through, and Wayne will unmute your mic and you can then ask the question to me and I'll then answer it. If we can try and keep it to one question each, that would be great, unless you've got a linked question, I guess, and then we'll take it from there. As I said, we have had some questions in advance, and 3 I think, and we will give those priority in terms of questions. So just in terms of where we are with all this, I just wanted to kind of maybe just give a bit of a summary in terms of where we are. Obviously, we had the guidance, the updated guidance on furlough leave on Saturday, through the night Friday and then to Saturday. That clarified a few things. It left a few things unanswered around annual leave and things like TUPE, albeit we are starting to get some clarity on those things now. We have had some further information through in the last 24, 48 hours in terms of what's going to happen from now on. So there was a parliamentary select committee which met yesterday. They've confirmed that the portal, so if you recall, there's going to be a portal which is going to be introduced for the furlough scheme. That's going to be introduced by the 20th of April. So we thought that this was going to be kind of early May, but it's now going to be the 20th of April, with the first payment planned to be made on the 30th of April and by the government. So they've obviously moved things forward quicker than we may have expected. The suggestion is that payments are going to be made within 4 to 6 working days of the day that the claims are submitted through that portal. The HMRC said they're pretty confident in terms of coping with huge numbers, which of course they're going to get. They think that they can take quite a few claims. So they tested it at 450 claims per hour. So they're fairly confident they've got the kit to deal with these things. There is some guidance due out next week. So guidance will be coming out next week in terms of how the scheme actually operates and how the portal operates through payroll. They confirm that claims can be submitted weekly. They can be backdated into March, as we already know. And interestingly enough, they said that claims can be made 14 days ahead in any pay reference period. So in the pay reference period of a month, either 30th of March or 30th of April, a claim could be submitted 14 days before that as well, which is something we didn't know before. What they have said is that there are going to be significant audits on this, and you probably saw from the guidance that came out on Saturday that there are now rules around documenting the furloughing of staff and keeping for 5 years. And obviously the inference was 5 years is a long time. The inference from that being that there would be a significant period of time in which these furlough payments are going to be audited. But that parliamentary select committee have said that there will be audits and there will be potentially fines for organisations who breach the rules, and where specifically employers are asking employees who are furloughed to actually work during the period of furlough as well. So you'd be aware that during the period of furlough, obviously an employee cannot work, provide these services. Otherwise, it makes the period of furlough void in terms of the scheme. So that's kind of a bit of an update. Obviously, I'm sure you'll have various questions around things like holidays and all that sort of stuff, which happy to answer with now. So we will take questions for around an hour, and then we'll cut it off. It might be we do another Q&A session next week to deal with any changes that happen in the next 7 days as well. So if you can't ask a question, then we will do one next week. If you don't get to ask a question today, then obviously email me or ring me or whatever, or however you want to make contact. So Wayne, can we start with the first question, please?
We can. So the first question was one that was submitted by Maureen Whitaker. So Maureen, I'll just unmute you now and you can ask the question.
Okay, okay. Yes, I had some information about bank holidays.
Yes.
Obviously coming up this weekend, which is very relevant. I was told that if the business would normally close on these dates, then the employer may still insist on holidays being used. although these days would need to be paid at 100% of normal salary. So I wanted to know what were the rules regarding furloughed employees on 80% and furloughed on 80 plus 20.
Yeah, so we've had guidance in the last few days from ACAS. I think this is probably the guidance you're referring to. And if we just, I mean, if I can perhaps just take us to the guidance, so we can do a screen share on this maybe. If we go down to the bank holiday section here, so bank holidays are usually part of the legal 5.6 weeks paid. Employees and workers may still be required to use a day's paid holiday for bank holidays, including when they're furloughed. So that confirms, as far as ACAS are confirmed, that employees can take holidays or can take bank holidays during a period of furlough, and they must be paid, it would appear, at the normal rate. So it doesn't say if bank holidays are given on top of employees and workers should check their contract with the employer about taking this holiday. But at the top, that employees and workers must get their usual pay in full for bank holiday. So it appears from that that the position is that if an employee is on furlough leave and would usually work a bank holiday, then they should receive their normal pay for that bank holiday. Now, just in general terms around holidays, we haven't had any guidance on this through the government scheme yet. We probably will get some, I would imagine, in the next 7 to 14 days. It's likely to confirm that employees can take holiday. It's likely to confirm that employees can even request a holiday during a period of furlough, but that holiday will have to be paid at the normal rate that holiday would be paid. So this isn't going to be a question of paying it at the 80%. It's likely the advice is going to be it would be paid as it would normally be paid if the employee was actually in work.
Okay, so you say that the advice is likely to be, but of course we're right on top of the bank holiday at the moment.
Well, I say likely. We've currently got two pieces of information. One is the ACAS guidance, which confirms that bank holidays can be paid, so can be taken in a period of furlough and should be paid, and bank holidays should be paid at the normal rate. We also have another piece of information which I can forward on to everyone at the end of this, which is, and this is where quite a lot of information seems to come these days. That's a tweet from HMRC Customer Services this week, where somebody's asked the question, and HMRC have confirmed that they should receive can receive holidays and should be paid at the normal rate.
Okay.
So that's the information we've got. We add those two together, we get a situation where, yes, it appears that holidays A can be taken and B should be paid at the normal rate. And I think even if we take the principle that that holidays can be taken, and we then look at the working time regulations, which still apply because the guidance says normal employment law still applies even during a period of furlough, then you would calculate it in that normal way.
Okay, thanks. So if you forward that later, that's fine. I won't take
Will do.
on that. Right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wayne?
Yeah, our next question was sent in by Rebecca Dixon. So give me 1 second, I'll unmute Rebecca.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
hi Rebecca, how you doing? You all right?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Yeah.
I have got an employee who's currently stuck abroad because of coronavirus and everything that's going on.
Yeah.
I know this might be a little bit unconventional, but obviously at the moment his time away from work is completely unpaid. If the business were able to seek his agreement, would it be possible to furlough him whilst he's actually out of the country?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, if the employees, I guess the principle is the employees on the payroll, so the employees it's on PAYE. You are a UK business, you have a UK bank account. I don't see any reason why not. The fact that the employee is not in the country is probably certainly not something the government, I don't think, are that interested in. I think it's more just, are they on the PAYE of the business?
Okay.
So if you can gain agreement through email or however, then and obviously document that, then yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Okay, thanks Rebecca. Thank you.
Okay, next up was David Tingle. So I'll just unmute that. eventually.
Hello.
Yeah, there you go, David.
Hi, David. How you doing?
Hi, Chris. Yeah, fine, thank you. Hopefully
Good.
everybody else is as well.
Yeah. Hopefully, stay safe. Absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, fairly simple question, I think. Can I furlough a full-time employee for only part of the week? In other words, agree with the employee that he or she works on Friday, say, and is furloughed from Monday to Thursday, because obviously we know we've got employees that have been working from home, but that amount of work is going to reduce and reduce. So
Yeah. Well,
can you do that?
you can't. No. The guidance is very clear that for a minimum furlough period to be effective, it has to be for 3 weeks.
Right.
A minimum period of 3 weeks, and within that period, the employee cannot do any work at all. So there cannot be any services provided or any revenue generated for the business. So this was something that was deliberated prior to the guidance coming out, or probably the second piece of guidance coming out. Can people effectively do short-time working or part-time, but they can't? It's got to be three weeks off completely.
Seems quite counterintuitive, but I suppose the rules are the rules.
Yeah, I think the intention of the government is probably to keep people at home. I think that's probably what's driving some of this, is that they probably want people to remain at home for that period. They don't want them coming in and out, in and out, in and out. That's probably what's driving it.
These are home workers anyway, but you know, I suppose the rules are the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The other issue was just another follow-on question, if that's okay. Is the advice, I think we exchanged emails on this just before the lockdown, is the advice that basically if you furlough someone, does it have to be a situation that you would have to lay that person off unless you furlough them? Or is the current guidance silent on that particular point?
No, I mean, the guidance at the moment is, it's worth looking at the guidance. The guidance is that employers whose operations have been severely affected by the coronavirus can invoke the scheme. So that I think the initial thinking was this would have to be redundancy, but the guidance has changed to a degree to include scenarios where it doesn't have to be a redundant situation. It could be a layoff, it could be some other disruption to the business. And in fact, within the guidance now, we have provision for carers, so parents, as an example, who are looking after children who can't actually do any work, can qualify for the furlough leave. So it's more around not being able to work really because of the coronavirus. So that could cover a significant number of issues, but the main issues, I suppose, the main scenarios are usually a redundancy or when someone has to be laid off because they have no work to do. So
if, for instance, just to take an example, a director who was in a vulnerable group and they couldn't work because of that, would they be applicable to the scheme?
Well, it's timely mention. If we just look at the we actually just look at the guidance now. So this is useful, I think, to kind of understand. So hopefully everyone can see the screen share there. So if we're talking around for individuals who are shielding, so if somebody's currently following government guidance to social distance, therefore shield, or is needed to stay at home with someone who is shielding, if they are unable to work from home and you would otherwise have to make them redundant, they can be furloughed. So this scenario, the shielding scenario, where there's a vulnerable adult in line with who is shielding along with government guidance, or somebody staying at home with them, they can be furloughed, but under the current drafting of that paragraph, only if otherwise we would have to make them redundant. Right. So that's the difference in that paragraph. Whereas if you look down here at the next paragraph, employees with caring responsibilities, employees who are unable to work because they have caring responsibilities resulting from coronavirus, can be furloughed. For example, employees that need to look after children can be furloughed. So you see that paragraph is not caveated by the potential redundancy situation. It just can happen.
Okay, that's
Okay.
great. Thank you very much, Chris.
All right, David, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, well, next question. Thank you.
So next is Catherine Reynolds.
Hi.
Hi, Hi, Catherine.
Hi. So my question was around people that remain in the business. So we have service engineers who work remotely. We furloughed half of them. The problem we're coming up against is some of them feel uncomfortable to go to sites which we deem safe. And I know obviously discipline in them is potentially an option, but are there any other options that we could walk through with them? We don't really want to furlough the guys that we've kept off furlough because we still need to provide a service for our customers.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue, isn't it? At this moment in time, you know, aside from the furloughing, it's the people who are left, especially when they feel they're at risk from, you know, kind of picking up the virus. It's difficult to give any particular advice other than, you know, confirm that you are following as far as you can the government guidance for and social distancing, and some organisations have introduced policies to do that, to confirm that everything is being complied with. But ultimately, if an employee refuses to attend work because of the potential to contract the virus, then it's short of understanding the position. I think in these circumstances, I'm not sure and also considering discipline, I suppose, if you wanted to, there isn't too much more you can do, unfortunately. It is
could we forgo furlough and resort to our express contractual clause to lay off without pay, or would that just be deemed as really hard?
No, you could. Yeah, well, no, I mean, if you've got the contractual right to lay off for short-term work, then yes, you could. I guess it comes down to the organisation whether you actually need the people on site and whether there's tactics to do that, but to try and get them on. But if someone refused, I suppose, yeah, you could potentially lay them off. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Catherine. Thank you. Thanks. All the best.
Okay. Next we're going to Tony Barry.
Hello. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My question was around furlough, whether or not once an employee has served the minimum initial 3 weeks period, if you bring them back into work, can you then furlough them again? And if you do, well, I know you can furlough them again, but if you do, does it have to be in 3 week stints?
It does. Yeah. It has to be in 3 week tranches to qualify for the grant, effectively. Yeah. It does.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tony. Wayne, next question, please.
Yeah. Next up's Melissa Dixon.
Hi there.
Hi, Melissa. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Mine was similar to the question beforehand, but I was just wondering, in this, when you initially furlough somebody for 3 weeks, if you were to bring them back into the business for a week, is my understanding correct that you can re-furlough them, which I think it is, but how often can you do that within the 3 months that the government have announced at the moment?
You can do it as many times as you want. So you can, as long as they are off for 3 weeks. So effectively, I suppose in practical terms, if there would be a week break, then you could refill them for 3 weeks. If this goes on for 6 months, you could do that as many times within that period as you wanted. Okay,
and is there a minimum or a maximum period that they need to be in the business or not in the business?
It would have. Yeah, I guess they would have to certainly be in for a week, because you can't have furlough for less than a week, so they have to be in for that week period, and then you could then re-furlough them after that for 3 weeks.
That's lovely.
And
Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm just going to say that's exactly what a lot of organisations are doing. Obviously, where you've got employee A and employee B doing the same job, employee A or employee B feels aggrieved to being furloughed or not being furloughed. A lot of employers are looking to just rotate that team.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
That's lovely. Thanks ever so much for your help.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next up's Jules Riley.
Hi, Jules.
Hiya. Hiya.
Hi.
Just following on really to the question about holidays. So we furloughed some of our staff and obviously let them know that the holidays, including bank holidays, are going to continue to accrue during that period. Now you say that they could ask for leave during that time. I'm not sure why they would, given the kind of on leave.
I agree.
But yeah, if they do, would that be because they perhaps want double pay for a particular day's leave or week's leave? But that would then downscale their statutory leave. So can we do that?
I mean, I think it depends on the individual circumstance of the furlough, to be honest, for individual. I share the same view. I don't think too many employees are going to be asking for leave, because I would imagine the majority would store them up and want to take them at some other point, especially we've now got the amendment regulations to the working time regs that they can be carried over 2 years now for 4 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think it would happen very often, but it might happen where somebody is a high earner and is only getting the 2.5 grand. I say only getting the 2.5 grand, but getting 2.5 grand. They want their full salary, so they may say, "I want to take a week's holiday." Now, the employer can refuse holiday, obviously, and there's a working time regulation, so they can refuse it. But it could happen. Sorry, was that was that your question? Was that?
Yeah, we paid our staff 100% of their salary, so I can't imagine why they asked for leave. I suppose the other part of that question is, could they say, "Well, I want you to pay for my leave. I want that week's pay as a double pay for the day, essentially."
They couldn't say double pay. They could claim that they could claim that they should be paid normal pay, which if they're getting 100%, they're getting anyway.
Yeah. So they can't say, "Pay me for buy my holidays back," essentially.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Okay, next up, Barry Lee.
Hi, Barry.
Sorry, there we go.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
A real quick question, just very well. Quick question to clarify the furlough point. About the minimum time period. I don't think anyone's asked it yet, and if they have, I apologise. But it's the 3-week block thing. So it's got to be done as a minimum of 3 weeks. What happens in the first period of furlough? We have people on 4 weeks or 5 weeks, i.e. not divisible by 3. Then can we take people off after 5 weeks and they get paid for 5 weeks? Can we take people off after 7?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. It's just got to be for a minimum period of 3 weeks, which gives people the opportunity to rotate. But if someone's on furlough leave for 5 weeks, then that's fine.
Okay, so it's not 3-week blocks; it's a minimum of 3
No,
weeks.
it's just it gives you that opportunity to do that. Yeah.
Okay, good. And the second one is, I'm really interested from a legal perspective for people that are very, very clever on where does the government stand on if you were topping up someone's salary? Because the government say they can't work and they're paying 80% of the salary, but what's the legal obligation a business has if you're paying 20% of their salary?
Well, there's no obligation. I mean, there's no obligation to top up anyone's salary.
There's no obligation, but if you were, what right does the government say if you're paying someone for 20% of the time? And does that look like that could be a discussion point in the future?
I'm not quite sure I understand the point, Barry. You're saying if we do pay the 20% increase, what view are the government going to take going forwards on that?
No. I want to know where the government stand on it. I was on an EY last week, and the EY believe the government are on a very, very sticky wicket, because if a company is paying someone 1%, 10% or 20%, what are they getting for that? The government were very quick to come out and say, you can top up if you like, but legally, what are they getting for that 20%? The government are telling them they're restricting those people to work, even though the company is paying 20% of their salary.
Yeah, and I guess, well, yeah, and I guess what the company they're getting in terms of work, they're getting nothing, are they? But I guess that's why it's an option for the organisation to do it. They're not obliged to do it. But yeah, I guess ultimately the employee. I mean, I guess on some occasions, the employee will have to top up the salary because the employee may say, I'm not agreeing to go on furlough for $2,500. I want more because my salary is more. So that might be a bargaining position, a negotiating tool that the employee has. So the employee might have no option at that point, especially if there's no layoff clause. So I guess it just depends on the facts. Yeah.
I just think it's an interesting thing to discuss going forward, because I don't think, the government had time to have a look at the technicalities of it. I'd just be interested from a legal perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things within this guidance that the government hasn't had a chance to look at yet, isn't there? I mean, there's so many different issues going to arise from this. I mean, certainly as employment lawyers, we're looking at this, and there's a lot of things in the future, going to come out of this. There's no doubt when the dust settles, and that, I suppose, that could be one of them. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Cheers.
Next up, Nick Hood.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Yeah, it's Nick Hood from Publisher here. Hiya. First of all, thank you, Chris and Wayne. I think this has been a very valuable, 30 minutes at least, and I'm sure that the rest of the questions could. I'm sure everyone appreciates your time and everything. So, first of all, thank you for putting this on.
Thank you.
A couple of very quick questions, well, hopefully very quick ones. First of all, do employees accrue days during the furlough period?
They do. Yes.
Okay, so it literally will just carry on their normal days on that. So yes, thank you very much. Okay. Do we, I know you've said there's more guidance coming out daily, but do we yet know the process on how employers process A, the payments on their payroll software, and then B, national insurance and PAYE?
We don't know the process yet. There's going to be guidance released. I think I said at the start, there's going to be guidance released next week, which is going to deal with all this in terms of the practicalities from a payroll point of view, and the portal which is being set up by HMRC. So we should know more on that next.
Okay.
Certainly next week. Yeah.
Right. Okay. No, and then finally, the quick one. I think it's kind of been touched on. It's the furlough staff and the non-furlough staff. I've been speaking to people, I mean, the phrase that some people are using, the ones left behind, the ones still working. So, for instance, if there was a team of 15 and they are now down to a team of 4, so 4 are working, 11 have been furloughed. What kind of, because the team of 4 are now doing the workload of a team of 15 in some instances, so they're feeling very pressured on their workload. I think it was interesting, it's popped up, you can pop people in and out of furlough, so that is obviously one solution. What about the HR side of things, of workload on the staff that have been left behind?
Yeah, I mean, it is a management challenge, I guess. I mean, I guess some of it depends on what the terms of the furlough are. I mean, I did see, I spoke with an organisation probably 10 days ago now, where the staff had been split in half. Everyone was being paid 80% of their salary. Some were on furlough, some were in work. Now that hasn't gone down particularly well for the people that are in work. But having said that, some of the feedback has been from the people who, as you say, are the ones left behind, has almost been, well, am I potentially more valued than the ones who have gone on furlough leave, and vice versa, the ones on furlough leave, could have that view. Am I not as valued as well? So I think there's got to be some management. There's got to be some clever management with these individuals, subject to the terms of the furlough, but also subject to the position the business is in, and I suppose the messaging to those employees around, you are the ones in this business now who are running this business for the short term. Is that going to impact them going forward? It probably will. I mean, if people do look to make redundancies, it probably will. So you've got to be careful about what you say, obviously, from a legal point of view. But I'm sure that there are discussions going on with individuals along the lines of, you know, you are a key individual for this business. We've carried out a process, and that's why he's still here. And for a lot of people, that will mean a lot, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
All right, Nick. Thank you. Cheers.
Our next question is from B. Gorrell.
Morning. Sorry, Wayne.
Maybe not. Yeah, we'll move on. So we've got Philippa. Philippa Lucas.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, B. Girls hasn't got a mic. That was just seen in the chat box.
Give me 1 second then. So.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Philippa.
Hi. My question was just around annual leave. At the moment, we've started the process of placing a number of staff on furlough. And at the minute, we're asking staff not to take or request annual leave in the first couple of weeks because we're worried it may disrupt our ability to claim if annual leave is seen as a break in the furlough period. Now, we'd rather staff use the leave in this time. We are paying at full pay, so there's no detriment. But is there any views around whether having any periods of leave throughout furlough could break the furlough period and eligibility to claim?
Yeah, it is unclear, but I think the point I was making before, we've now have the amended guidance from ACAS. So just to give that some context, I guess the previous guidance from ACAS last week was that annual leave was not compatible with furlough leave, which is a view that a lot of individuals take. Some have different views, but a lot have that view. That guidance has obviously now been amended to confirm that during a period of furlough, bank holidays can be taken, and if they are taken, they must be paid at normal pay. If you then take a step back from that and say, well, there's no reference to bank holidays in the legislation in terms of working time regulations. A bank holiday is effectively a holiday, therefore holiday, so there is no distinction. That therefore means that holidays can be taken during the period of furlough leave. We haven't got any government guidance on this, but you would like to think that ACAS have spoken to the government and amended the guidance with that in mind. So it appears on the face of it that leave can be taken in a period of furlough. We also have, as I may have mentioned previously, we also have a tweet from HMRC, which I can share with people, which confirms that employees can take holiday during a period of furlough.
Yeah.
So
you don't think we need to kind of have this ban around the first 3 weeks?
Listen, it's a difficult one to call.
Yeah, wait and see. Possibly.
I mean, if you want to be cautious, there's going to be further guidance on this. Wait for the guidance. Yeah. If you want to do it, then do it. Certainly, one thing I would mention is in terms of holiday is that there is something known as abuse of the system in terms of working time regulations. Now, this is probably a working time point, to be fair, rather than a kind of voiding the furlough scheme. But if you, let's say, for example, during a period of furlough, 3, 6, 8, 9 weeks, whatever it is, you ask your employees to take all their holiday. So you effectively give notice under the working time regs, as to take a week's holiday, another week, another week, another week. That could potentially count as abuse of the working time regulations, which may not void the period of furlough because that's an HMRC issue, but it may put you in breach of the working time regulations. Now, what impact that's going to have in practice is debatable because some employees, as we said before, may be happy, some employees may not be, but it might not have a practical implication, but it might be a potential breach. And if it is a breach, then obviously you get into issues of fines. I know, but I suppose more importantly, you get into issues of claims from individuals trying to recover that leave which puts you in a worse position, I guess. So I think the principle, I think the guidance from the government is going to be, yes, we agree with ACAS. You can take leave. As I say, we've already had the informal tweet from HMRC. So that will be fine. I think it's then a question of whether or not how you use that power effectively to force people to take that leave, and what risks you take in that, I guess.
And just a final question, because I don't think many have commented within the the various webinars that different companies are doing. The actual process of furloughing, of how you furlough from a HR point of view, we've gone down the route of invite letter to a consultation meeting to discuss a furlough proposal, give them an opportunity to ask questions, to outline the proposal and why we're proposing it, and then to issue a variation to contract document for signing after that meeting. So kind of very mini process. Is there anything over and above or different that you would recommend for your clients to follow?
Not really. That sounds good to me. I mean, the guidance just suggests that you need to gain agreement, speak to the employees, and in the employee guidance, it speaks to the employer and try and gain agreement. So it's no, that sounds good process to me. There's nothing really. I mean, obviously, because of the speed of this, because of the even when we go back to the 20th of March when the Chancellor announced this, people were kind of furloughing people, the following Monday, weren't they? So it's pretty much been individual discussions, individual agreements, people seeing the economic pressures and then agreeing to the terms. It's just been pretty much that way.
Yeah.
There's no, I think it has been mentioned before, whether there's any obligation to collectively consult, and there isn't. It's just to gain agree. So I think that process you've outlined sounds good. Yeah.
Thank you. That's been really helpful.
Okay. Thanks, Philippa. Thank you. Wayne, next question, please. 20 to 12. So
if you want to just look in the chat box there, Big Oral's typed the message there regarding holiday leave during furlough and whether it would be included in the period in the reclaim.
Oh, so right, so the 80%. If the question is about can you reclaim 80% of the holidays, albeit we haven't got formal guidance on the issue of holidays, the theory is yes, you can. Yeah, you can continue to claim back within the furlough period, even if someone takes a holiday. Yeah. Okay.
Hopefully that answers it. In the meantime, it's James Griffiths.
Hi, James.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone. Just a quick question with regards to the process that needs to be taken for those that are furloughed and those not. They are all in the same role, in theory, with the same ability. However, the remaining one person who's going to work a month will have a premium paid to them, and a bigger premium than usual. Is there any criteria, such as redundancy criteria, to decide who does that month, or because we're rotating them, which order they do that premium month in?
I think if there's going to, first of all, if there is two people, one potentially goes on furlough, the other stays and gets a premium, then you would be wise to have some form of objective criteria. I guess that is the sensible thing to do. The guidance confirms, as I said before, that employment law continues to apply, and I think if you're making any decisions about individuals where somebody may be treated differently than another, then and to a detriment, I guess, then you would have some objective criteria to base that decision on. So I think the common thinking is, certainly we've been advising people that you would go back to the principles of a redundancy exercise and apply that criteria. The only difference with a furlough process in terms of selection and a redundancy one is that the employee doesn't have to agree to a furlough. So there is a difference there. But in terms of actually going through the process, I would certainly apply some objective criteria.
All right, thank you.
Is that fine? All right, James, thank you. Wayne?
Next up, Gavin Biggs.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Gavin. How you doing?
Yeah, not so bad, thank you.
Good.
I could be cheeky and just ask two. The first one is all the guidance is very specific about it's people's pay as at February 28th. So obviously we're now on the 9th of April and national minimum wage has kicked in. So in terms of our next payroll, are we to increase everybody's pay to take into account national minimum wage and then give them new furlough figures based on that increase?
Well, no, it all goes off this reference point, which is it is all a reference point. I mean, I know some people have topped up pay and are paying that additional amount under the living wage, but yeah, it goes back to the reference point as the guidance. So it's going to be what we call historic pay, I guess. Yeah.
So does that mean that us as an employer, what effectively we're going to do is in terms of the difference between our March payroll and our April payroll, our March payroll, we were able to furlough somebody at 80% of their previous pay. We then furlough them for this payroll at 80%, but at that same rate of pay.
Correct.
And as an employer, we're going to have to pay the 6.1% top up increase because we won't get that funded through the portal. So my furlough pay type is going to be the same as it was last month. I'm then going to have a Mellors 6.1% top up. And then where it's relevant, the Mellors 20% top up.
If you're paying the additional amount, yes. Yeah.
Well, do we have to? That's the thing. Do we have to pay that national minimum wage increase?
Well, no, if you are paying, let's say on salary, you're paying 80% of the employee's salary as of 28th of February 2020. So if we're a salaried employee, then it's 80% of the employee's salary as of that date. That's when HMRC are telling us to take the figure from. So we wouldn't, certainly as I understand it, we wouldn't get into a situation where the living wage is actually having any impact unless there is additional training done during the furlough period, or the employee comes back to work and you're paying them as normal.
Yeah. So the point is that people are trying to apply this furlough. This furlough pay is basically changing employment law on the basis of things like 8% pay and stuff like that. It doesn't work like that. Furlough is purely the amount of money you're going to get back from the government. National minimum wage increases, we're working on the basis that we will have to implement the national minimum wage increase for somebody who's on an hourly rate, but we will only get back from the government 80% of their pay rate as it was at February. So it's going to be an increased cost to us, and we're not going to be able to reclaim 80% of the national minimum wage increase.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, my interpretation is that if we take the 80% of the employee's salaries the 28th of February, or capped at 2.5, then that's the calculation based on that 28th of Feb, not after that, when the national minimum wage would increase, unless there are additional payments made. That is, in terms of cost to the business. Is that not your understanding?
Well, I'm thinking that what we're going to have to do is implement national minimum wage. We can't reclaim 80% of that increase, so the whole national minimum wage increase is going to sit with us basically as an employer cost. And another cost that sits with, I was hoping you'd tell me different, but unfortunately not, so never mind. Another cost that sits with us is employers' pension. The guidance is clear on the basis that you can only recover from the portal the minimum employer's contribution, which, as we all know, is Nest 3%.
Correct.
We have local government pension schemes where the employer's rate is 30 odd percent. So we're thinking that we're still going to have to pay the 30%. And surprise, surprise, every letter that we've had from LGPS is you have to maintain your employer's rate during this period. So that's a 27% cost to us because we can't reclaim the additional rate from the portal.
No, exactly. I think you're right. Yeah, I mean, I know that's something that's been mentioned. That I think that is unfortunately the position. Yeah.
Cheers, Chris. That's just cost me a lot of money. Thank you.
As always, Gavin. As always. Speak soon. Cheers, Gavin. All the best. Next one, Wayne.
Lee Williams. Potentially not again.
Hi, Lee.
Now we'll move on again then. So we've got Richard Guest.
Hiya.
Hi, Richard. How you doing?
Very good. I've got an employee who doesn't want to come in and he wants to be furloughed rather than receive SSP. We've said he doesn't have to come in, we're not forcing him. He's not shielding. I'm reluctant to furlough him because I don't want a situation where I have loads of people saying, can I be furloughed? Because I need them to come to work. He's applying lots of pressure to try and make us furlough him, which I'm uncomfortable with. If he's not shielding, am I okay not to give in?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's no obligation on us to on employees to furlough anyway. It doesn't sound like he fits any of the current guidance in terms of scenarios that furlough would apply. What's the reason why he?
I've got two actually. One has asthma. He says it's really bad, but he hasn't been written to by the government. And another guy has a child who doesn't live with them, but is close to, who has had a letter from the government.
Yeah. Okay. So just to clarify this position around shielding, I guess, or I suppose individuals who, first of all, feel that they are, I suppose, part of the vulnerable group. So if they're part of that list of vulnerable individuals, then they don't qualify for SSP under the changes. So if you remember, there were changes made to the SSP rules that specifically focused on isolation, so self-isolation. Those rules, which were obviously put through the act that's now the bill that's now the Act, Coronavirus Act. People who self-isolate can gain SSP. People who are shielding don't qualify for SSP. In fact, at the moment, they don't qualify for any payment. And this has been a big issue in the care sector because care sector individuals don't want to come into work because they're dealing with, or they do want to come to work, but if they suffer from one of the serious health issues or are over 70, then they obviously feel kind of vulnerable to coming into work. But at the moment, there's no obligation on an employer to pay them anything for them staying at home. Now, you can look to furlough them if they qualify as one of the individuals who have been told to shield by the government, so have received a letter. But as I said before, the caveat with that is that if they're shielding and therefore are unable to work, they can only be furloughed if you would have otherwise made them redundant under the current guidance we've got. So if you would have not otherwise have made them redundant, you can't furlough them, and that's the issue. So if you can't furlough them, then they either are at home without pay, or you come to some agreement with them around pay, whether it's holidays or whether it's an SSP rate or whatever it is.
Right. So it's worse than I thought. Not only I'm correct not to furlough him or feel pressured to, but we were planning to pay him SSP. But if he's staying at home because he doesn't want to come to work, we can't reclaim that from the government. No,
absolutely not. No.
That's going to be an interesting further conversation.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It was highly expected that the government would amend after they'd amended the deemed incapability issue in the SSP regulations. It was expected that there would be a further amendment to deal with shielding employees, but it never came, and it hasn't. And since then, they've passed further legislation. It's still not been covered. So,
okay, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We've got 8 minutes to go. Next question, Wayne, please.
I've just discovered we did have one sent in earlier by Linda Collister, so I'll just unmute Linda. That doesn't seem to be working again. So Tony Barry's put in that he's got another question. So I'll unmute Tony now.
Hello again, Chris. Sorry.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. I want to be absolutely clear on the furlough rules, and I'm not. So if I've got somebody on furlough at the moment, I can furlough them for, it's got to be 3 weeks. Doesn't matter if it's 4 or 5, I can still claim if I bring them back in the end of week 4 or 5. If I then put them on furlough for a second stint, are they on furlough then for another minimum 3 weeks?
Yes, correct.
Right, got it.
Correct.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Tony. Thank you. Cheers. All the best.
Okay, now Lee Williams is back and with Mike. So Lee.
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Hi, Lee.
Hi. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, it was a follow-up question really to around the holidays being accrued. I've seen another sort of template letter that's gone out to some staff where, as part of their sort of variation to their terms and conditions on the employment contract, the employer is asking them to accept the fact that holidays won't be accrued during the time that they're furloughed.
Okay.
What's your view on that?
Well, that would, I mean, I think we're absolutely certain that holidays do accrue because the guidance refers to employment rights continuing during the period of furlough. So that would imply that holidays accrue. So you can't contract out of accrual of holidays. So you cannot. That's illegal. Well, not illegal. It's not lawful. You can, I guess, contract out of contractual holidays accruing. So any holidays which are in addition to the 5.6 weeks under the working time regs, you could. But I guess that wasn't the intention of that clause. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. And just one follow up to the bank holidays. So when you said that the HMRC obviously will be auditing this, in months, years to come, as it were. Typically, we would have, as a brewer, we would have been working on Bank Holiday Monday because it's one of our busiest days. It's unclear, if this was if everything was normal, it's unclear who would have been working because normally we don't need everybody in and it's normally done on a voluntary basis. Hands go in the air and someone says, yes, I'm prepared to work or not. But obviously this is not normal, and back in February time we could see what was happening. I said we were unlikely to be able to be working on the bank holidays. I'm just wondering how is it going to be looked at? Do they look at it in here and now, or will they look and say, well, in previous years you've always worked the bank holiday Monday and therefore that is a normal working day for everyone and therefore it applies to those who've been furloughed?
Yeah, I think they probably will. I mean, is your intention to pay for the bank holiday then, or not to pay for the bank holiday this time?
Well, I'm asking myself the question because I hadn't really sort of worked that through, because obviously with ones who are furloughed at the moment in time, and there's all the three of us have been furloughed because the brewery's closed. I just presumed it was just we'll kind of wake them up again, as it were, in whenever the lockdown is over, and now this bank holiday questions come up in my mind, and I'm not clear now where we stand.
Do your contracts of employment oblige you to pay for bank holidays then if somebody is not there? So if somebody was I guess working and then the bank holiday came along,
so all the bank holidays except Christmas, Boxing Day and New Year's Day are classed as normal working days, but people can, so we add them essentially to their holiday entitlement, and they can take them off if required. And therefore we have a skeleton staff working on the bank holidays, because obviously it's the busiest time for our customers, and therefore
I mean, it's tough, that one, because it's very much like variable. It's like this whole variable holiday issue and kind of variable hours and how the holidays accrue in that sense. It's difficult to give an answer in terms of what the government are going to look at. I guess if you took the view that people were not being given a bank holiday now because they're furloughed, then and someone said, well, I should have been paid for this, I should have been paid at full pay, then if it ever comes to a tribunal will say, well, let's look in the circumstances, let's do what we would normally do and look back over the last 52 weeks and see what happened last time. That's, I guess, where you naturally end up. But it's difficult to say, because we literally haven't even got guidance on the holidays generally. So whether or not how you select people to receive a bank holiday when they're on furlough is a difficult one to answer. But I guess that's where you naturally end up, probably kind of looking at what happened the previous 12 months.
So we'd look at who worked those previous bank holidays to work out then who would be on full pay.
I think that's definitely
everyone. Yeah, not everyone.
I mean, I think that's one of, bearing in mind the way the scheme's working and bearing in mind the way holiday calculations are working, that's one of the ways you would potentially look at it. But it is, I'm simply speculating there in terms of where we're at with this whole holiday leave issue at this moment in time, unfortunately.
So am I best in the meantime just getting some, like a defendable kind of argument in place, say this is how we've treated it, and then should it come up, we will then, go into battle.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would, I, as somebody else said before, I think what the sensible approach at this moment in time for people on furlough, until we've got some clearer guidance in the next couple of weeks, is probably to just fall back on that position, really. Yeah. That, I mean, all these things, certainly this bank holiday, I mean, that ACAS guidance that I referred to before, said if a holiday cannot be taken, then it will have to be given at the end of the furlough period, or at some later point. So that might have to be a discussion at that point. It might have to be reviewed after the furlough. But I think the position now for the guy, if there is any doubt, and we've got, you've got a circumstance like that where it's almost you kind of volunteer, and it's difficult to nail down who would have received the bank holiday. Then I think I would just play it on the basis that at this moment in time it's unclear, and you effectively just stay on furlough.
Yeah. Okay.
Without the bank holiday.
Okay. That's great. Yeah. Thanks for that.
All right, Lee. Thank you. Cheers. It's 12 o'clock. Can I just deal with a quick issue now, just prior, because I've seen one in the chat box, and this revolves around TUPE. So organisations that transfer employees in to as like a service provision change, as we call it, or a business that has been bought around the 28th of February. So the staff may have transferred after the 28th of February. So they weren't on the payroll of the current business as of the 28th of February, albeit they were on the payroll of the transferor, the old employer. This isn't dealt with anywhere in the guidance. So I can understand that a lot of organisations think who deal with service provision change are thinking these guys we've just transferred across on the 3rd of March don't qualify for furlough. Now, under the current interpretation of the guidance, that's probably correct, but we do have some information. We had some information yesterday or the day before, I think it was. Again, I can forward this on to everyone, which basically confirmed from an MP who confirms that the government are going to cover people who transferred across. So, I mean, our view always was it would be covered anyway. It was just a loophole. It was just missed by the government, as various things have been missed by the government in these guidance notes. But it's a loophole. But we've got information. Whilst it's not full, complete government official guidance, it's indicative of the fact that this is going to be corrected and it will be included. So I just wanted to kind of, I see somebody's asked that question. Jenna has asked that question. So that's kind of where we are. So I wouldn't be overly too concerned about that. We just need to get the updated guidance, and that should be coming soon. Just one other point I wanted to mention, which you may have seen that we've posted in our, for HR3 members, we posted in our Facebook group, and we've done it on social media, some other social media as well, around commission. So some organisations have employees on a low basic. So somebody may be on £10,000–11,000 and then earn significant commission. And the question we had, because the guidance now says you can include commission within the calculations that was compulsory, we was almost questioning, well, how do we calculate that? You know, do we take if someone's salaried, you take the pay on as of February the 28th, which may include some compulsory commission, and then you use that as the figure. So it was unclear. So we contacted HMRC, their customer service team, and they've come back and said if commission is variable throughout the year, and it's obviously contractual and compulsory, then you would apply the variable calculation as opposed to the salaried calculation, which is the pay as of the 28th of Feb. So that will help certain industries, certain sectors, which obviously employ people, salespeople, on this variable kind of up and down commission throughout the year, as long as it is obligatory, compulsory, and contractual. So that's just another issue which we hope has been clarified. We've not yet got formal indication on that, but that's what we got from the HMRC yesterday. Okay, so Wayne, are there any more questions? How many more questions do we have?
We have got 2, 1, 2, about five more questions.
Right. Well, I think bearing in mind the time, I'd probably take one more question. Then I think we'll have to end it there. I'm conscious of people's time, and then we'll perhaps reconvene and do another Q&A next week when hopefully we've got some of these questions answered. But I'll take one last question, and then we'll end. If anyone has any questions and they want to independently email me or ring me, then absolutely, I'm happy to take any questions outside of this. But if we take the last question, then Wayne.
Okay, so Wendy Barnes has put one in the chat box, but I'll unmute her mic anyway.
Hi, Chris.
Oh, hi, Wendy. How you doing?
Good, thank you. I wanted to just ask a question about access to a client site which has been denied, and whether or not we could put people on indefinite furlough leave until that lift has been lifted, or do we have to keep doing continuous 3-week stints?
No, you can. No, you can do indefinite furlough leave. So you could effectively furlough somebody from now until the 31st of May, which is when this current temporary furlough period finishes. Yeah, absolutely, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, guys, thank you very much. As I say, if anyone does want any clarification on any of the issues, drop me a line or send an email to Wayne, and then we can pick those up, and then we'll probably do another one of these sessions next week. So for now, thank you very much. Thank you.